Welcome to the Outside the Business Boxes podcast, where we're talking about how to ignite your business today for the future using systems for everything you do in your business to make your life, your employees' lives, and your customers' lives easier for you to ultimately enjoy your business and, of course, make more money. I'm your host, Chad Murray. Hi, everybody. It is the Outside the Business Box podcast. I am Chad Murray, your host. Thanks for coming and listening to my podcast. I am getting very super happy with the results I'm getting here. I'm watching my numbers go up. People are watching and listening. And I just want to say this podcast is nothing without you guys. I appreciate it. And I'm just trying to, throw as many guests and as value out there with any knowledge that I have and learn with you. So today we have a great guest today, the president of the CSIA, Chuck Roydhouse. I kind of wanted to let you know, when we start interviewing all these people that are in the industry, what can you learn from them as we listen to them? And that's what's really important about having the guests on here. And I learn. I am doing it for the industry, but it's kind of funny. I might have let you in a little secret. I do it for me as well. I get to learn from these guys. I may have, a larger company, but I certainly don't know everything. And I may be a mature company, but I'm an adolescent in the CSIA mindset of what they offer. And so I love the fact that CSIA has accepted me in. I am doing the 2021 homecoming summer bash thing that they have. I'm doing the roundtable, and I can't. It's wonderful to be recognized, to have value to help everybody, and I hope and will be, and I have been studying for CSIA certified. But to Chuck, his repertoire, and you're gonna love listening to him. His real story, I don't know if you've ever heard it. Maybe he's been on other podcasts, but I learned some stuff about him, and I hope you will too. And he's a coach, he's a consultant at this point. I am trying to help him hopefully take a path when he wants to retire from the day-to-day stuff in his business to become a coach, and we'll see where we go. I'm here to help anyone who wants help, and certainly that's our path. And so I was excited to talk to him for a little over an hour, and we had more to talk about, but I had to end it up because it's only so long. So with no further ado, this is a great session with Chuck Roydhouse. Here we go. Okay, we're here with Chuck Roydhouse. He's actually a guy that I have followed and admired, and for the last 3 or 4 years, he doesn't know me. We've talked a couple times now. As I've let myself into the industry now, I'm trying to find everyone that I can find that who are industry titans, and I do believe Chuck Roydhouse is an industry titan. He's the president of CSIA. He's a fireman. He owns his own consulting company. Chuck, how are you today?
Hey, I'm fine, thank you.
Good.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Monday morning, and I used to hate Monday mornings. Boy, I love them now. To me, it's like spring. Monday's like, if I were to put every day into what it is, Monday's a spring day for me. It's a new beginning of the week, and I love it.
Yeah, it's called tabula rasa, clean slate.
There you are.
That's what the Romans called it.
I like that. See, there you go. I'm already learning. We're 2 minutes in. We're already learning. So I'm going to let Chuck tell a little about him. A lot of people who are listening may not either know about the CSIA or like we were just talking in our prep work here. I didn't go to the CSIA. Everyone knows I went CCP. However, I didn't know enough about CSIA and everybody else to make the decision of where I was at. But tell me your story of a little bit of where you got to where you are, kind of like your elevator pitch of who you are and what you've done.
Well, my story starts back when I was 8 years old. I've always had an affinity and a need for money. And I was raised in probably what you would call a middle class or upper middle class household. My father was a fire chief. So we weren't rich by any stretch. And they told me if I wanted money, I needed to get a job. So I started cutting grass in the neighborhood. I had about 8 or 10 lawns that I would do regularly every week. And I did that up until the time I was about 16. And I saved my money and I learned a lot of lessons working with people and dealing with clients. And, it was a good learning experience and it taught me work ethic. And of course, I had chores around the home.
Right.
And but the number one thing that I had to focus on was education. My parents grew up in the Depression and were very, very poor. And they knew that the key to success was to be educated. That would give you maybe not $1 million or whatever that represented, but at least financial security, health care.
Right.
Yeah, that's what they were looking for because my father, when he was a kid, used to go behind the grocery store in Annapolis, the local A&P, and dig through their trash to get stuff to eat that they would throw out, fruits and vegetables. And so that made an impression on me that, I didn't have to live through that, but he did. And so did my mother. And my mother was a little bit more fortunate. As a very little girl, she grew up in a place called Bells, Tennessee, near Memphis. And she lived on a plantation. But when she was 4 years old, she moved to Annapolis, Maryland, where she ended up meeting my father. And they lived downtown, and it was a very humble beginning. And she had it pretty tough, too. So I had to make my own money, and I did that. But school was the most important thing. So my parents spent every piece of money they had on two things, making our home better and my education. So I went to private school my entire life.
Yeah.
And it was instilled into me that I had to be educated. I didn't have to be the smartest kid in the school, but I had to be better than a C student.
Are you the only child?
No, I have a sister as well. She's a little bit older than me. She also went to private school.
Okay.
And the reason for that is they wanted to give us the most opportunity we could. So no matter what we did in life, we would have a real strong baseline. The private schools the school I went to go to school at is a Naval Academy prep school right outside of Annapolis. So it was a very tough school. Everybody that was there as an instructor was either a retired admiral, Navy captain, colonel from the Army or the Marines. And they were some serious taskmasters. So that was kind of how I started out. And then I thought, well, gee, this grass cutting's for kids. I'll make a lot of money. I'll go to work in fast food. Well, that doesn't work. So my passion growing up around my father being in the fire service, and my entire family on my father's side of the family is all in the fire department. That's what I wanted to do. It was really my only interest in life. So when I graduated from high school, I thought, well, hell, I went to private school. I'll get hired right away. Well, I didn't. To the fire department, you're just an 18-year-old kid with no work experience really and no life experience. So what are they going to do with you? So I ended up driving a fuel oil truck. And I was like, well, wow, I'm not making any money doing this. I got to do something else. So I'm still trying to get into the fire department. I joined a volunteer fire company when I was 16 to get some experience and take some training from the University of Maryland. And while I was waiting to get hired and doing all these other jobs, I was like, man, I'm not going anywhere doing this. I should go to college. So after 1 year between kind of a gap year between getting out of high school, I decided I needed to go to college. So I went to Shepherd University in West Virginia and pursued a degree in fire science and safety. And that was great because I did okay in high school, but I really had to work hard to just do okay,
Right.
Because it was so challenging. And I had no interest in anything they were telling me. The minute that I went to college, I was on a dean's list the whole time I was in college. It was like
It's
a whole different world.
To do something, then you're forced to do something, isn't it? And I was
Yeah.
the same way, exactly. Yeah.
And it was really neat because even though the concentration of fire science, so my degree in fire sciences basically teaches you three things. It teaches you how to be a fire chief. So there's a lot of command tactics and strategy classes. There's arson investigation classes with fire prevention. So you know how to prevent fires, but also know how to detect them. And then you also have to know about building codes. So basically, it's kind of puts you on a career path to be an officer in the fire department and eventually a chief officer. And then I had a minor in safety, which safety kind of dovetailed with things that are done in the fire service. And it kind of gives you something that there's not a whole lot of jobs in the fire service when you retire. There are, people move around town and become different fire chiefs, but it's not a whole lot of stuff. Well, if you have something in safety, there's all kinds of safety. Now, this is my mindset basically in 1980. Fast forward to present day, it was a smart decision because I could probably get hired quicker doing something with safety than I would in the fire service now.
Right.
So that worked out pretty well. And the nice thing about safety is a lot of it dealt with what I was passionate about in the fire service, which was, the building codes and understanding, what happens with fire chemistry and how it affects something and what you don't want to breathe or why you don't walk across the roof that's been weakened. Steel, when it heats up to about 1700 degrees, it actually gets stronger. But then like at 1750 degrees, it actually fails. So there's a short time period where you're stronger, but then it fails. Well, why is that important? Well, you don't want to walk across it, but if you've got equipment or people working in a building in front of it, you don't want the walls pushing out, collapsing on the people or the fire equipment. Right. So that was the stuff that kind of all ties together that makes the job really, really interesting. It's not about putting the wet stuff on the red stuff, as our lingo is, about just putting out a fire. There's a whole lot that goes into it. And learning that, I used more of that education after I got hired. So at the age of 20, halfway through my college career, I got hired by the Anne Arundel County Fire Department, which was still very, very young to get hired. And I worked there for 25 years. And then I retired at the age of 45. During that time, I progressed to the rank of engineman, which in the fire service where I'm at, that's somebody that will be in charge of a fire ground operation if there's not an officer there. So you're sort of like being a sergeant. If there is an officer, like if I was working with a captain, obviously he was in, charge of the operations, the building and the fire ground activity till a chief showed up. But my focus was I had to be qualified to operate all the equipment that the fire department had. So whether that was an engine, a brush truck, an aerial ladder, aerial tower, high compression air machines to fill air tanks, I was qualified on everything we had in the fire service. And it was all a specialty designation of what you had to do to pass these tests, practical and written tests to get promoted to that. And then it was great. I enjoyed my job. I loved it. I'd still be doing it today if I was physically able. Just the fire service is a young man's job. Well, it's also not a job that makes a lot of money. And because of that, I figured out after about the first 6 months, after I went through the fire academy and was out in the field for a couple of months, I had a lot of time off. Back then we worked 24 on, 48 off. And I had 2 days off, and it was like I was living in my parents' basement. And I had a real nice Ford Bronco that was brand new, but there was no extra money to save up to move out, buy a house or anything else. And I was like, man, I got to get a job. So I went to work for Montgomery Ward's. Well, guess what Montgomery Ward's does for you, which is like Sears, and they're both closed now. It just dawned on me. I'm really getting old. So they hire you to basically work nights, weekends, and holidays, right? Yeah. So when I'm off from the fire department, instead of being out playing with my friends, I'm now working nights, weekends, and holidays when the regular guys went off. And they were paying me minimum wage, which at that time was like about $3.25 an hour. Yep. So I'd be taking up my nights and weekends. And then when I got my paycheck after taxes, there was like, $70.
Yeah.
And it clicked in my head real quick. I was like, wait a minute. I could go out and cut 2 lawns on a Saturday with my dad's push mower and make $70. Right. So that's how I got into lawn care. What started out was I'm just going to cut 1 or 2 lawns on a week because I've lived in the same county and the same city, and my family's been here for 200 years. As soon as my name got out that I was working, it just blew up, and it went from cutting a couple of lawns to a full service lawn and landscaping business, where I started doing commercial landscaping work and maintenance. And that's where I learned about understanding how to set up patterns of how you service your clients, frequency of doing it, having spare parts, and all the things that I learned in the fire department that were normal with me that I saw growing up, going to work with my dad and then doing it as a real career, the redundancy and, the one is none, two is one, kind of
Right.
concept.
Right.
I've always had spare equipment, on everything that I did. And I learned how to budget. One of the things that I learned in college was how to deal with municipal governments to get budget requests, accepted through either the city or the county, whoever's overseeing you. Well, I kind of reverse engineered it. They were telling me how to apply for money and how to justify it. Well, when I had my business, I just kind of reversed engineered it and said, oh, no, this is what I've got to do. So all these little pieces of the pie kind of come together, and you don't know it at the time of the things that you're learning or how they're going to impact you or what they're going to do. But because I was in a business that everything was literally life or death of anything that we did. I mean, the first thing that we did in the morning is once we had what we called informational exchange, where the off-duty crew would inform the oncoming crew of anything they needed to know. Now, in my position, the engineman or the driver, the equipment apparatus operator would tell me, oh yeah, we had something at 3 o'clock in the morning. I got everything, filled up, cleaned up pretty well, but you're going to have to really scrub the axes and probably repaint them and sharpen them, but they're back where they need to go. Or the chainsaws are back and they're in service, but you're probably going to want to change the blades. Well, every day after getting that, we would immediately pull the equipment out and we would do what's called a PM, a preventive maintenance check. And everything on that piece of equipment would be opened up in the compartments, taken out, run. I'd have to check the air bottles, the oxygen bottles, the chainsaws. We'd make sure the blades were sharp, everything was tight, everything was full of fuel, full of oil, ready to go. And again, in the fire service, if you could only have one person to use a chainsaw, we always had three. That way, if for one reason it didn't start, for any reason at all, you could grab a second one and still go to the roof to ventilate, because you got to get that roof open, because when guys go into a building, they're going into a wood stove. And if there's no chimney on it to ventilate it, not only can't they see to find people and the seat of the fire to knock it out, they're literally in an oven. So we want to get the heat and smoke out to help them find people, make a rescue, and find the seat of the fire to basically put the water on the fire, because you just don't spray willy-nilly.
Right.
So those were things that kind of all dovetailed to get me to where when I had a business, this was all second nature. I remember 5 or 6 years ago, the big buzzword was have your 5-minute meeting. And I was like, yeah, I've been doing that since, dirt,
Right. Right.
It's just normal to me. I always, when I had guys, started working for me, I thought it was important to gather them up in the morning and say, okay, this is where we're going today. Here's your clipboards. Our SOP is you review your clipboard to make sure you know where you're going. If there's any special notes on there, if there's something you need, or we'll put names on there like Mrs. Jones's dog, his name is Fido or whatever.
Right.
Don't give him any biscuits. He has food allergies or whatever, because we carry dog bones on the truck.
Right.
Or yeah, he's okay with that, but ask first, whatever. So all those things, you reinforce that, and that makes the guys know that you're involved in what's going on. You're not just handing them or faxing them a list or emailing them a list saying, this is your route for the day and I don't care. And then we do the same thing. I do a debriefing at the end of the day. It's very rarely that I'm not here at the end of the day to greet the crews when they come back. I ask them, how did their day go? Anything special I need to know on my ends that aren't in the notes, for the laptops, for the forms that we use. I use ServicePal for our chimney inspection forms, and that works out very, very well.
So, okay, so let's get back to your life in a little bit here. So we got,
okay.
We're a landscaping company now. Okay, I didn't know that. So we're a landscaper and we work for the fire department. Then what?
So I liked landscaping, and that dovetailed into not only commercial, residential, the maintenance, the snow plowing, everything else. I had somebody that approached me in the fire service that saw what I was doing with the landscaping business and how it was scaled and how it was so organized. And he was a one-man band, basically. He had one truck that wasn't lettered, and he was sweeping chimneys and trying to do some repairs. And he would hire guys off duty to work with him, kind of like as a helper. And he came to me one day and said, gee, I would really like to, grow this more like what you do with your landscaping business. Would you like to buy half? So I said, sure. Let me see what it's all about. So I looked into it, and what I kind of saw was I was a lot more hands-on in the field. I would go to every job that we had, and that was one of the niches of why people would hire me. First, it was because of the reputation in the town. The second thing was because they knew that I was going to be there. So when I left, their lawn looked like a golf course. It wasn't like we forgot to blow off the back patio or we blew grass in the pool or anything. So I was supervising the crews, and I got it expanded to where I had two crews running out in the field, and I would kind of flip flop between the two of them as kind of, controlling everything that was going on for product control. And then I would interface with the clients. I would see if they needed any add-on things. Hey, would you like to get your beds mulched, or anything need to be trimmed? Or if they brought it up, then I would give them a quote right on the spot. So that kind of worked into something that was really good, but I saw that it wasn't going to work with me always running between the crews. And at that same time, the landscaping industry started to be overrun by a lot of people.
Right.
Almost anybody with a pickup truck was doing it. And then this opportunity came along, and I was like, this is a very unique niche. I investigated, I read a whole lot about it. Him and I got together, we came to a deal, and then I started running the operation for him. About a year or so later, he decided that he wanted to sell me the other half. He wanted to pursue promotion in the fire service. And when you do that in the fire department, the only way to get promoted, you have to go to a day job typically. So where we would normally work 24 on, 48 off, you would work Monday through Friday, and maybe you would go to the training division, or you'd go to fire prevention or communications, where they dispatch you. And the reason you do that is they want you to be well-rounded. You can't be one face of only being good of putting out fires or rescuing people. They want you to understand why you do the inspections, why fire prevention is so important, why maintaining sprinklers are important. So you have to do these jobs. In the military, they call it getting your ticket punched. You'll go out maybe on an aircraft carrier, do whatever your job description is. And then when you come back in, they'll send you to maybe like a war college. And then maybe you'll go out again to sea, and then you'll come back and they'll send you to the Pentagon. And it's a whole different experience of what goes on in each division or each department.
Yep.
And it's kind of like moving up in a family business. You just can't start at the top because, you're the son. You need to really start sweeping the floors and understanding what the guy that's the janitorial person normally does. So if he's having problems and you end up being a supervisor, you've done the job. Same thing working in the warehouse, restocking, knowing how to order. So that it's the same game everywhere. That's the thing about a service business, whether you're talking about the fire service, military service, it's, landscaping, chimneys, it's all the same deal.
Well,
So
it's a unique business in the chimney business, because it's very rare that you, even if you're second generation, we understand our industry and what we do. So you don't just go bring your son in and say, okay, now you run this business. You put him on a truck, you make him a helper, because they have to learn what to do in our business. It is a little bit of a unique thing, because we're such a niche that you better know what the heck you're doing.
Mhm.
And you just can't, and doing whatever you got to do. You got to have that experience on a truck before you're ever going to run my company, and to when it comes to managing a crew operations wise and that stuff, of an actual chimney functionings and stuff like that. Now you can get a COO that doesn't know anything about chimneys, but I'm talking about when you first bring on the son or
Right.
even a daughter, you're going to put them on a truck. And I did. And I have a daughter that went on a truck, for a little bit, just to kind of see what it was like, and climbed on roofs. And it's like, wow, Dad, I had no idea. And it's like, yeah. And so, but back to your story, I just wanted to kind of, to jump in a little bit.
Well, no, and that kind of segues into, so one of the things I didn't mention to you is I am an Eagle Scout. So some of these same processes that were normal to me, they were so normal in the fire service, was because I did them in the Boy Scouts. And in the Boy Scouts, I was a leadership trainer. Evidently, I had a knack of being very organized and getting things done even at that age, that the adults sent me for leadership training. And that's where I started to learn not only how to teach, but how to kind of get people to stretch what they think they can do and take chances on them. So when I started out, I was a patrol leader, which was just a small group of guys. I'll say, 6 to 8 boys in a patrol. And then we would have, maybe 10 patrols and an actual troop. And then I was moved, after being successful as a patrol leader, I was moved on to the staff where I would work. I was a quartermaster and I was a secretary and I did a lot of different things. And then I became an ASPL, which is Assistant Senior Patrol Leader, which is the head boy. And then I ended up becoming Senior Patrol Leader. And I had a troop of about 80 guys at that time. So I had 2 ASPLs and then we had 8 patrol leaders. So I was used to working with people on different levels, and we would do wilderness training and teach you how to survive in the wilderness. We would do pioneering, where you had to learn how to lash and build like a tower, to kind of observe things. And it was an idea of showing people, okay, well, if you're going to build this tower, we're going to have to cut down trees. So you're going to have to learn how to use an axe. So one of the things we have in the Boy Scouts is called the Tote and Chip. It's an award you get for actually learning how to use saws and axes correctly and safely. Again, the safety comes in. So all these little tidbits at the time that I didn't know were kind of laying the foundations of what would evolve into where I'm at now. Was an Eagle Scout, was in the fire department, did the landscaping deal, and then that evolved into the chimney deal. And after I got to a point where I felt, fairly comfortable in what I was doing, I thought, this industry has given myself and my family an awful lot. I was able to send my son to private school. He's doing very, very well. I've always had, comfortable living conditions, nice vehicles, things like that. I need to try to help other people. There's other people that are out there that need help. So I decided I wanted to get involved with CSIA. And I think it was at Winston-Salem. John Pilger was the president at the time. And I asked him, I said, hey, what can I do to help you? And I said, I don't know what you need or anything like that, and John and I had known each other for a while. I'd taken a lot of research classes from him. And we had a commonality because he was a fire chief. So we could talk shop.
When did you get certified? I don't mean to interrupt. When did you get certified in your business? When did you find out about the CSIA?
About 2 years into it.
Okay.
So about 1995.
Okay.
Was when I got certified. Yeah.
All right.
And so John put me on the CEU committee, and which is the people who kind of review the classes that people apply to teach. We decide if they're worthy or not, how to award CEUs, and in what brackets they get awarded in, whether it's technical, communication, liability, safety, business, etc. And I did that for a year or two. And then at that time, right as Mark Stoner was becoming president, it was becoming apparent that the education was a little static at CSIA. So they kind of asked me to do a review for them. So I did a review for them 1 year, and then we batted back and forth. I pretty much wrote kind of a white paper on what the deficiencies were, where the chinks in the armor were, how we needed to fix it. And then we did it a second time the year later. And then that's when Mark asked me to join him on his board. I think that was in 2011, 2012. So I came on as a board member. And the following year, Mark asked me to be his treasurer because they found out that I like numbers and I like dealing with money. Yeah. So I was a treasurer for 3 or 4 years. And then I was vice president. And then a little over 2 years ago, I became president. And one of the things that, I believed in was the whole idea of getting involved in CSIA is, let's make the education, let's make the industry better, and let's help all these people out there that are struggling. Because whether you're talking about our industry or any other service industry, a lot of them don't understand numbers. They're good technical people. And I can make the same analogy with what I've learned about a lot of people I went to college with and, in school with, became physicians. And these guys are literal brain surgeons, right? In every sense,
Mhm.
but do you think they would get paid if, they had to do their own billing? No. So
Right.
they hire somebody because
Yeah.
they went to school to crack your chest open or
Yeah.
saw off the top of your head. And why would you think they know about insurance codes or billing or anything like that? So I never look down or think that anybody, whether it's in our industry or other industries that I've dealt with, just because you're a good farmer, good grass cutter, you technically know the chimneys inside and out. You're Mr. Science on that. That doesn't mean you understand how to charge per hour. So
Right.
you make money. And the thing that I'm focused on now, so after doing that for a few years with CSIA, and hopefully we're getting the message out, doing a much better job, and we've broadened the education scope, and we've built a lot of things at our headquarters as far as practical applications. And then we've taken everything on the road to you. So if you want to do something, Chad Murray can call us up and say, hey, I want to have this kind of course or courses here. I want to sponsor it. Will you come teach it? We'll teach it, bring the props, and you just give us the location, and everybody gets CEUs. We're trying to be as easy to deal with and do business with as we possibly can. Well, that wasn't enough. Some people need individual help. So I was suggested about 5 years ago to start a consulting business where I could go around, and Mark Stoner was the person who suggested I do it. He says, you have a unique gift of being able to kind of slice through the crap, as it were, be very black and white, and systemize people and tell them, hey, this is what's going on. How can you be profitable and organized? This is what I can do. So I'll come to their place for 1 to 3 days, depending on what they need to have done. I'll look over everything. So even if you ask me just to do one thing, I want to see everything.
Yeah, you
Because
can't get a half picture. You can't
no,
help everybody.
because
You have to look at
run,
everything.
yeah, running a business is like baking a cake. Okay. You might say it's a chocolate cake with chocolate icing, but no, what it really is, it's milk, butter, flour, eggs, a pinch of salt, and things have to be measured, and what temperature, if you go to Colorado, you're going to get a whole different baking recipe than what you would do maybe in Ohio because
Sure.
of the elevation. So every business is unique. Everybody's dream is unique. And there's no real, other than your basic parameters, just like morality of life and how we all presume to be at a certain base level, there's no real right and wrong in how you run your business. It's what your goal is and what your dream is and how you want to structure it. So I like to go in with, just take everything in and say, okay, you say you want this. To accomplish this, here's what you need to do. Your guys don't have any respect for your equipment. You're breaking your equipment all the time and spending money to replace it because there's no shelving in the back of your trucks. Everything's in cardboard boxes flying around, just as an example. Or why are you wasting so much money making return trips to the job? Your warehouse is not organized. You don't have any inventory control, whether that's done on a computer or whether that's done old school where you put a mark on a shelf. And when you get to the red line, now it's time to order 4 more of these caps or whatever the scenario is that you restock. So I teach people basically how to organize their business, how to be profitable by trying to get a budget, but more important than a budget, in my opinion, budgets are important. I don't want to minimize them, but the most important thing you need to know is what do you need to charge per hour to be profitable per man? And if you don't have those numbers, you're going to be spinning your wheels. And there's a lot of people that are in the service industries, or they could be running a lunch counter. And if you don't know how much a slice of bread, a piece of cheese, or what it costs to turn on your lights, whether anybody comes in and out of your door or not, you're not going to be profitable. And all of a sudden, I'm afraid now that you're going to wake up one day and you're going to be 65 years old with gray hair, and you're going to say, I have no retirement.
Right.
I got to keep working till I'm 80. You know,
It's
And
funny.
in
It's funny. It's funny that you say this, because I mean, I'm actually a product of knowing my numbers, but I've found out recently through Ray Pulte that I know my numbers, but I don't know how to make the numbers consistently profitable. Like, I can make certain months of the year profitable, no problem. But there's certain months of the year I can't. And now there's a little bit of level of, where I don't feel that my industry in my markets we're seasonal, but we definitely have a season. You know what I mean? We definitely
Mhm.
have fall and winter. And we certainly have spring and summer, which are two different, financial levels. The difference is where do I, and we're learning right now. I can tell you what my numbers are, but I don't know how to work my numbers right. And that's what
Mhm.
I'm learning right now. So a lot of people that'll tell you, yeah, we did 12% last year. Okay. Well, did you really? Or if you did, do you know how you got that 12% exactly? And so I've got a couple high level people that I know in this industry that thought they knew the numbers, that I'm finding out that they don't, and they're learning them now. Is like, they can be easily over 15% or higher. And
Mhm.
by talking to them and helping them just to niche this down, to find a 0.5% and 1% in some areas, that's a unique skill that a lot of people that's next level, now level two. Getting to know your numbers, one, like when you first start with somebody who doesn't know the numbers at all. Okay, so you got to get them to know the numbers, and then you got to get them to work the numbers. And I
Mhm.
mean, 26 years, I'm just learning now how to work the numbers. I mean,
Right.
we've always kind of looked at it per item. Like, this is our number one chimney cap. If it's under 10 square feet, this is what we're charging. It looks like we should be making money at this rate.
Mhm.
And then all these mortar crowns. We go through that every year, and we do these price increases or whatever we're going to do. Does it end up being profitable? I don't know. We think it does, but there's not that, yes, this is going to make us profitable. And how do you do that in the off months? And so we're learning how to make money in the off months, which of course will skyrocket your money in the on months. And
Right.
so it's a little bit unique working with someone who really knows how to play with numbers. And so, I mean, is that something that you do when you come in there? Do you know how to work the numbers?
Yes. So if somebody's willing to share that information, I definitely want to see that because that's part of telling the whole story. And the whole story, again, not beating up on the cake batter recipe, but that's the easiest thing to understand. Or the barbecue sauce.
Right.
You put too much pepper, it's not going to be pleasant. You don't put enough, it doesn't have enough kick to it, so you feel like you're eating ketchup. So it's that fine line. Well, there's also, as much as the numbers are important, there's personalities and the dynamics, and also what could be the home life. There's a
Right.
big difference if you have a spouse or a family member working in the business and that dynamic, or if you don't. And neither one is better than the other. It's just the difference between a chocolate, a strawberry, and a vanilla cake. It's all cake. And it just depends on which way you're going to go with it and what applies to you. Because if your wife or husband does not work in the business, well, then you might have the pressure of, Jesus, you're always at the business. What the hell are you doing there? Don't you have a home life?
Right.
Well, conversely, if your wife's with you, she knows what you're doing all the time and she's there, taking all the slings and arrows that you're taking with you. So she understands that. But at the same time, are you paying a price because you're at each other's throat because you're always in the fight together and you don't get a break, or 10 o'clock at night when you finally get home and you're relaxing and you're going to watch TV just to veg out or something. And then she turns to you or you turn to her and you're like, hey, did you fill out that thing in that clipboard? Or did you do? Man, that's not the time to talk about it. You've got to
Right.
have a break and you've got to have. So another thing, as you get older, you start to find out like the yin and the yang. The Chinese, they had it figured out, a long time ago. You've got to have balance in your life. You can't be as much and if anybody fits the personality of a workaholic, it is me. I enjoy working. I had a conversation with somebody not too long ago, and they said, gee, you're probably going to retire soon, can't wait to hunt and fish, all the stuff you never get to do. I said, yeah, I'm going to do that. I said, but I plan on working at least 3 or 4 days a week. He goes, doing what? I said, if I got to go to work driving a truck for somebody,
Yeah.
because I have a CDL license, I'm going to do it. I can't just sit around. And you can only play, I don't play golf, I'd like to learn, but I can only imagine you can only hunt, fish, and play so much golf before maybe in a year or so it'd get old and I would get
Well, I'll
bored.
tell you, it does, because that's what I did in 2014 when I retired. All I did was fish hunt, and the time with my family was great because I never really had it. But
Uh-huh.
I'll tell you, the reason I even found coaching was because I needed something in my life other than my chimney business, and I made the leap to be a coach. But I'm going to full circle that what you just kind of said right there. So life balance, and so um, I did have my wife in the business for most of the years, and we have a unique balance that we really are yin and yang. She was an owner employee. Never did I have to worry about a decision. If I made it, she went with it no matter what. She ran the call center, and then we were fortunate. My first employee in the call center was my mother. They get along great. So we had this family dynamic. I mean, truly a family dynamic. My mom, me, my wife, my stepdad came on a few years afterwards. His best friend is now my general manager, John. My best friend I grew up with is in my company. We have this big dynamic of a family, and I mean, the only person I ever really beat up was my best friend growing up with. That's the only guy that it would probably tell you it was a rough first 10 years with Chad because we were best friends. We could talk,
Right.
really candidly, and I probably put a little too much weight on Brian, but other than that, we made a rule. When we are not at work, you get 5 minutes when we're all together to talk about business, and it's over. Because there's always something oh, I forgot to do this. Okay, clock's ticking. 5 minutes, done. And now my daughter, I have a daughter that runs my social media and whatever, Madeline, and you see her on Chimney World now. She's asking questions and talking on there. We have a strict rule. We do not talk about business at all at work because I talk to her enough during the week. I don't need to talk to her at home. And so we do not talk about business at all. But we also have that, that good balance and got it to my first 10 years, I never took a vacation. I just didn't. I didn't have time. Or I probably could have, but I was like you. I was such a workaholic. My wife was at work. So I got to kiss my wife, about goodbye as I go in and out, and we were together. So I guess we'd go to Wisconsin for Christmas every other year, but that was like a 4-day thing real quick. I wouldn't consider it a vacation.
Right.
And so, but we did that life balance thing. And I will tell you, for anyone who's new to the industry and you're working, I'm just going to say it, you're working your ass off. Find that time for your family now because you're going to miss it. My oldest 2 daughters, I mean, they pretty much were call center helpers, I mean, they really were. I mean, and we used to see them all the time talking. I don't know, on one of the, I don't know if it was Chimney World or maybe a professional chimney sweep forum. I put my 3rd daughter made a little Lego video and she got it right. I mean, showed up with a clipboard, talked. I mean, it's an anatomy of a sale completely of an inspection. It was great. She went up there with the poles, inspected the chimney, pointed to the chimney to the customer, and then cleaned it. It was funny as, I'll get out. But, that I think a lot of people, and I am coaching a lot of fairly newer business right now, is you got to figure that out now. It is important to stay. Your weekends need to be your weekends. Your nights need to be your nights. But there's that flip side to that of what you do in your off time also can elevate your business. So you do have to find that work-life balance. And I didn't mean to make that about anyone here. I just want everyone to know I've never said that on this podcast or anywhere. Is I missed out my oldest 2's first 10 years of their lives. I mean, I really did. And I was that all about chimneys guy, except for Sundays, because we work 6 days a week too. I work Monday through Saturday, and I never took a day off. And so that was my life. So I don't want anyone to make that mistake again. It's important to have that in there. So let's get back to Chuck.
Oh yeah, no, and you're totally right. I did the same mistake. So I didn't know any better at the time. And now that I'm older, I have one son. He's named after me. He's doing very, very well. But my goal was, because as I said before, what was so important and instilled in me growing up with my parents was education. I went on hyperdrive with my kid. I made it to the point where he had little or no chores to do around the home. His main focus was to be educated. He went to the same school that I went to, the Severance School, and he ended up, going to a very exclusive college, and he's doing very, very well. So I'm very proud of it. But we didn't have that great of a relationship. We weren't really at each other's throats. It's just because I was working all the time.
Right.
You know, I would go to football games and I would go to karate with him as much as I could. But then at the same time, every third day I couldn't go because I was at the fire department, and you can't take off from that job. You can't take like an hour's worth of leave. You're there for 24 hours. So between the fire department and things that went on in the business, or somebody didn't show up and I had to go out and run a truck, or something broke in the middle of the afternoon and I'm getting ready to walk out the door to drive 45 minutes to go watch him play football or go to karate practice, I wasn't able to go. My wife would have to go, and then I'd be taking a reserve truck to somebody or a part or whatever. So I don't know that if there would have been somebody telling me at the time, if I would have listened to them, because I'm pretty hard headed. And, when I just put my head down and I work, kind of what you said earlier. The good thing is that we have a great relationship now. We do a lot more together now that he's out of college. He's been working full time for about 5 years. He just bought a house and some property. And, we gave him, I bought him a Kubota tractor with a backhoe and a bucket and a mower on it for a housewarming gift. And he is like your typical egghead computer engineer that you would not think would be on this. He sent me a FaceTime yesterday. He's smoking a big old cigar, riding his tractor around, cutting the grass in his backyard. And it was like, and my wife's like, deja vu, he's become you.
Are you and I friends on Facebook already? Did you not see my post this weekend?
No.
I bought a Kubota tractor this weekend, and I was
did you really?
riding it with a cigar this weekend.
Oh, that's funny.
Literally Saturday. It's great. I love it.
Oh yeah, I've had Kubota tractors forever. Even though I'm not in the lawn business, I have a 43 horsepower front end loader and backhoe that I just keep at my house just because I can.
I love it. Me too. I dug a hole this weekend because I could.
Yeah, there you go.
And then I covered it back up and just literally sat there smoking a cigar, looking at this hole. All right, I drove around. This is so stupid. I drove around it 3 times, drinking a beer and a cigar while I was laughing at that hole. And now I'm going to make that hole never look like it was there other than the grass. And then I did it. I spent 2 hours. It took me 5 minutes to make the hole and 2 hours to cover it up.
Yeah.
So let's full circle this. So we're talking a little bit also, our mistakes are your lessons to not do.
Correct.
That's one of the passions, I believe, and we've talked about this before, of why we're doing what we're doing in our mentorships, coaching, consulting that we're bringing to everybody is to help people out. Yes, we charge for what we do, and maybe not a little bit, and maybe some, it doesn't matter what your pay structure is or whether you are or not. The fact of the matter is, as I'm finding out as I'm helping more people, well, even when I started, it is something that I've never, I've helped employees and I've helped other people, and all this stuff through my life. But until I made this leap of I'm committed and that's my career, and now that I'm doing it, of course I'm not ever going to do it for free, but boy, if I could, it's so awesome, that feeling to help people get there. And when, the best thing I love is when I've hit an aha moment with somebody and they've been doing something, a little bit different than the way I did it. And it helps them free up some time. I love, the first thing I do when I coach somebody is I talk about your big problem and we try to solve your big problem up front. I don't nip away. I'm like, what's the biggest problem? And I talk them through it. It's always something else. There's always something else than that first thing. And then we get to that, we solve, or at least get on a path to solving it. And then the first thing I do is like, okay, I know you're a workaholic. I know you're on that. We need to look at some things of how I can create time for you. And then we do that within the first month. And it's so relieving when people just all of a sudden they go, I have time to now work on my business, and things are running smooth. I actually spend less time in the business, more on it. And I feel so much better. And when you see that, when people come to you, and I don't ask them, I mean, I never ask anybody how I'm doing, which is probably, I should probably every once in a while ask you, how's it going with me, you know, where you're at, and let them tell me. But they always, because they often tell me without me asking. And it's so, that I can't tell the feeling of that, the helping and the guidance that you can give, how it makes me feel. And so you're going out and we've kind of defined this before we started the podcast. You're at this point, you're more of a consultant, not a coach. You go out there and you take a full look. Now you said something, I heard something that you said earlier, that you said, if they let you look at the books. I wouldn't make it a deal where you don't. I don't, when someone signs with me, if you're not letting me look at the books, I don't want to work with you. I got to look at the books. I mean, because I don't want you to hide something from me, and I'm coaching you a different way, and nothing's ever getting changed for some other reason. And I see something on their books. It's like, I can't tell you. I have probably saved people. I've had a couple people that didn't want me to show their books. And when I looked at them, saved them over $100,000, like instantly. Like, why are you doing this? Well, that's just the way we've always done it. Well, don't.
Right.
Don't do that anymore. You know, and a lot of times it's the advertising budget. Like, they put it on autopilot. Stop putting your advertising on autopilot in a seasonal style business. If you're paying for advertising in November and you're a chimney company, stop it. Turn it off. You don't need it. Your SEO and your clients, for everything will work together. And a lot of these guys are paying $10,000, $15,000 a month in advertising, right? Well, you'll make $40,000 more in 3 or 4 months if you just turn it off. You will not be less busy. I had one fight with one of my clients. I said, turn your AdWords off. Turn it off. I can't, my business will die. I said, it will get busier. Watch. Stop it. And I said, let's do it. Let's figure out what we did this month, how many appointments we did. We did it. Got a number. Turn it off. The first week they called me up. We just spent $2,800 less and we did 3 more appointments. Wait till the end of the month. And it ended up being big time. So, I mean, just by looking at the books, I went, why are you spending that on AdWords? Turn it off. So,
that's what I was talking about. That's tweaking the barbecue sauce.
Yeah.
You know, okay, you got a barbecue sauce, but you're only selling, 100 bottles a month. Let's really see what the ingredients are. Maybe let's do it more efficiently. Maybe we can produce more. And then let's see what happens if we add a little bit more brown sugar or whatever it is, or just by adding onion to it, does it change the complexity of the flavor? And now it's more appealing and we can sell 300 bottles a month. That's what it's all about. It's about tweaking it. And everybody's business. I mean, there's always certain commonalities, but everybody's business and their goals of what they want to do and where they want to be is a little bit different. I mean, I'm kind of unique in the industry because I've never been one who believed in growing my personal business. I am very comfortable at a certain level. Right now, our comfort level of what I can manage, I'm not looking to expand, but I'm also in a little bit different position. I've been doing this for a very, very long time. And at some point, I'm going to stop one way or the other, whether it's turn the light switch off and walk out the door, sell it, merge with somebody, whatever. So if I was 35, it would be a little bit different maybe. But what I'm comfortable with is whatever the client's comfortable with. So for me personally, I like the idea of having 3 trucks on the road. It's 6 people to manage. You have a couple of people in the office. And if you have everything right, all your efficiencies in place, you can make at the end of the year in your pocket more money than most people that are running 12 trucks.
Wow.
Because usually the people that are running 8 to 12 trucks do not have all their stuff. They're just feeding the animal. Now, there are negatives when you stay small, okay? One of the things that Mark Stoner talks about is he likes having an 18-wheeler. If he gets a flat tire, he's got 17 other tires on the road.
Right.
And that is really, really true. if you're running 3 trucks and you have 3 CSI certified technicians, one running each truck, and the guy gets sick, and let's say it's sick like break an arm and he can't work for a couple of months, well, that can really devastate you. You don't feel that as bad when you have 10 or 12 trucks. It's easier to make that workload. You could have that helper float between crews. You could split that guy's job, add a job between each one of the other trucks, and you would hardly ever know it until you could get somebody to take a spot or figure something out, or get caught up in the scheduling where you take that truck out of the rotation. So there's many, many things you can do. So bigger is better in that sense. The problem is people lose sight, and I found this out in the last 40 years of being in business. Everybody in the fire department had a part-time gig, whether it was a business they owned or working for somebody else. So I work with guys that own school bus businesses, dump truck businesses, things like that. And they all have the same universal story that they told me. And that is, if you have 2 or 3 school buses, you'll be profitable. 2 or 3 dump trucks, you'll be profitable. When you get into that 5 to 8 dump trucks or school buses, you're not going to be profitable. You're going to lose money. When you get over 10, you'll go back to the profitability. So what you've got to do is you've got to have a mindset of understanding and planning that when you get caught in that purgatory, you don't let it stay purgatory.
Right.
It's just a rough spot or a low income spot to build on something to get to the next level. So it's kind of like when you're in college, you go to school to be a firefighter, and not all your classes are fire department classes. I still had to take history and English and regular chemistry and everything else. But if I didn't pass those or score high enough, I wouldn't have graduated. I wouldn't have gotten my degree. So you do have to do the stuff you're not interested in. Well, that's sort of what this analogy is. When you get to that 5 or 6 or 7 trucks, you can't let your foot off the gas. You have to really plan. You have to have a savings for that. So you've got a nest egg to hold you through, so you can immediately leapfrog, hopefully in a short period of time, to get to that 10 or 12 trucks. And then from there, everything starts to become scalable. And once that happens, you can just smash your foot to the floor and just run with it, as long as you're maintaining everything.
Yeah, we talk about it where it's at that $1 to $1.5 million in the chimney industry where you start getting that, why am I not making money? I'm working my butt off. That's the first scalable lesson you have to learn, how to fight to get to 2 where things are great. And then you can kind of scale up to 3, almost to 4, and you kind of back on that again. And then that between 4 and 5, it's exactly where I'm at. The profitable months are awesome. The bad months are bad.
Right.
And so, I've heard other people, I've said this on the podcast, and it probably blows some people's mind away. I'll have a month where I'll make $250,000, but I have a month I lost 110. Mm-hmm. And people go, "You lost 110,000?" I said, "Yeah, no big deal." And they're right. What? It's like, well, that's the $4 or $5 million type thing, which of course sucks. And so that's the difference between a $6 million company that's not losing 110,000 in those bad months. You figured out those bad months to supplement and get that through it, which we're in the middle of doing. But I actually wrote down some questions, and it before we started talking. And so I got to ask you, so it's back to your coaching. So who's your perfect client?
Probably somebody that has 2 or 3 trucks. I mean, they could have 1 and they're trying to get to the next level, but anywhere from like probably 1 to 4 trucks that are saying, you know what, this thing's out of hand. I'm definitely out of my element of knowing what to manage. I need help. I'm not being profitable, and it's just chaos. And whether that chaos is from a lack of SOPs, I have about 200 SOPs just for my chimney business alone. And the reason why I do that is I learned that at a conference in, I think, 96 in Atlanta, at a convention. And there was a guy named Steve Toburin, and he was talking about McDonald's. And he said, McDonald's is basically, you drew a circle on an easel. Back then, they didn't have whiteboards. And he said, and he made it like links of a chain going in a circle. And he said, any one of these links pulls out of this chain, no matter how dumb you might think it be, the guy who cleans the bathroom, he goes, then the chain goes flat and it falls apart. And that kind of stuck in my mind of thinking of what's called a service circle. So if you don't have a standard operating guideline procedures for everything that you do, and they don't have to be overly complicated, and you don't have to write any of them yourself. I can teach you how to do that, to have your crew have buy-in to it, to help you write it. So that way, when you're enforcing the protocols, it wasn't something that Chad dreamed up last night, and it really won't work in the field because, he just sits on his butt in an office at 70-degree temperature year round. He doesn't know what it's really like with us. You get your guys involved in it. And when you have standard operating procedures, which is exactly what everything the fire department, everything the military, the medical, I mean, we've all seen TV shows where they're saying, hand me the scalpel or whatever, and then they're closing up and they're doing an inventory. Do I have all the sponges and everything? There's an SOP that tells you how to do that. I have a friend, Doug Hesh, that's an airline captain pilot, and he's told me before, that they have procedures of when you start the plane, it's not just turn the key. It's you go through and you're talking to the co-pilot. Did you, hit button 2 and this lever 3 and flaps are up, and it's a procedure because you can't skip something because it's important. Now, obviously, operations, flying a plane, fire services, life and death, and we're not really at that level. However, life and death of your business financially and having something for your employees to come to every day, you got to realize too that in our business, a lot of times, this is the best thing that's going on in an employee's life.
Right.
They come to work for stability, camaraderie, a sense of purpose, something to do. So the more organized and stable that you can make it, and it doesn't have to be strict. This is not, the Marine Corps, as you know, inside and out, but you have to have some basic rules. And that's what I do is I like to show up, get you organized, give you some guardrails. You tell me where you want to go, where your weaknesses are. I'll point out what I see. And then we'll write up some things of, okay, this is what you need to do. And, here's the guardrail on each side of the road. All you got to do is keep yourself and your guys on the asphalt and not get into the ditch or to the weeds. And if you can do that, you're going to have a happy crew, you're going to have a profitable crew, and you're going to feel good at your home life. And you're not going to be laying awake at night wondering, is so-and-so going to show up? Or, oh my God, did they pass their drug screening? Or whatever your issue is, or I can't remember if I ordered something or not, because you don't have a procedure to, even if it's as simple as writing something in a book, a 3-ring binder that doesn't let the papers come out, that you can go back and check. There's a lot of little things that you can do that's old school before you have to get into computer programming or anything, to train you and your people how to do it. And that's what I like to do. So if I come into a company that has 2 or 3 trucks, he wants to grow, and when they get to a certain size, if it's something that's out of my skill set, I have people to refer them to, like yourself or like Mark Stoner with Blue Collar Gold, because you're dealing at a little bit different level. So I don't think that you guys are any more superior to me. I look at myself as I'm a general physician, general practitioner, to help somebody, to heal them, maybe do a quick sew up or whatever. But I'm not an orthopedic surgeon. I'm not a cardiac specialist. I can see that, you're overweight, you have high blood pressure for the last 3 years, your shortness of breath, you probably got a cardiac issue, but I'm not your cardiologist, but I'm going to refer you to one. So that's what I do. I'll get you on the path, get you up and organized, and maybe that's all you need. And that's maybe all you'll ever need. But as you want to start to grow, if you outgrow me, then we have somebody to refer you to. The nice thing is I'm able to do this because I am, fairly well secure. I don't have to charge an arm and a leg for it. And I can do it, kind of any way that you want to do it. So we don't have to be something that is so harsh that someone either can't afford it or can't take the time to do it. And, it's really what your dream is. What is your path and where do you want to go?
Yeah, I've signed a bunch of clients here in the last few months, and it's funny. When I first started, I always thought, well, I don't know how much to charge in my coaching, place I'm certified through. It always kind of help you out, but I mean, I didn't know my worth, and now that I really do know my worth, I still don't charge for it in the chimney industry because I want to help everybody out. I mean, I give at least 20 to 30% off to the chimney industry. But the people that I've signed here in the last few months, every one of them almost said, "That's cheap." And I'm like, "Well, you can pay me more if you like, but
Yeah.
I mean, that's all I'm doing it for." And so, and then, you know, when we get our value, I mean, we're free. And so I actually mentioned in my last podcast, I actually mentioned you in it, that you consult. I mentioned a couple other people that do what they do, and you know, we're all out here to help you with, you know, some free, some paid, but we're inevitably always free, you know, because if not, you can't afford us. And so,
Right.
you know, we'll find you the time, we'll show you the systems, and we'll get your business going. And everybody wants to know, if you didn't want to know, I'm a proponent of coaching. I don't view any coach in this industry as a threat to my business whatsoever. I've referred other people to other people. I mean, I'm me, I'm unique in me. Chuck is unique in his deal. You know, I spend a lot, I do exactly what Chuck does, but with a little flavor. I don't have the onion, you have onion for sure.
Mhm.
You know, but that doesn't mean, I mean, I'm already thinking, everything you talked about, even though I came from the military, you know what we don't have at Masters? We try to do the truck thing. Our trucks are sloppy. You know, our bigger vans are better. When we used to have trucks, they were real sloppy. The vans are better, but they're not. I mean, I know there's these truck things on Surefire and stuff that I've never looked at. I know my other guys have, and they maybe implemented a little bit. I'm not when it comes to the SOPs of the organization of a truck, I've never focused in on that part. And so it's interesting, you know, fire department, and how, you know, you don't ever see a fire department, at least we don't hear about it. Yeah, they show up and, well, we can't put out the fire because the hose isn't working, or you know,
Right.
you don't hear that about the fire department. You never think about it till we have a conversation about it. It's like, no, they always do have a backup or something like that. And so anyway,
Yeah, and if you open up a compartment door anywhere in the United States, you could eat lunch out of a compartment. It has to be clean. It has to be organized. And there's more to it than just the military part of that. It gives somebody pride in their
Right.
equipment. And when they have pride in their equipment, they take care of it. When they take care of the equipment, you're not replacing the equipment. So it makes you profitable. There's a whole reason for this.
Right. Well, I actually talked to my general manager a couple months about it, and because I would always have the mindset of back when I ran the company, how sloppy the trucks were, and I would try to do it, but I never really cared, so I didn't focus in on it. And he just told me a couple months ago that actually our vans, the guys keep them very clean now. And I said, because I'd asked about it. It was actually at our a yearly meeting. He said the guys are pretty organized now, and because we've trained the guys to, you know, do their own organization, so we don't have a set Master's way, but they're all pretty clean. And when I went to get a trailer from the work the other day, about 2 months ago, and I looked in a couple of vans, and I was like, oh wow, I would have never had them that organized, because I guess I had a pretty sloppy trailer, but I kept the truck clean. And so, but anyway, Chuck, it's been fun. I enjoy to get to know you. Everybody, so how do we get a hold of Chuck if we want to hire Chuck?
So you can go to my website. It's roydhouseeffect.com. And it'll tell you anything you need to know about my consulting business. On there, it has my email address, which is chuck@roydhouseeffect. And then you can call the phone number. I can guarantee you that I won't answer the phone, but I do return phone calls in less than 24 hours.
Yeah.
I'm usually on a Chimney phone most of the day, so I don't do that, but I check them every day, and I do call back every day. And basically, all I want to do is talk to you. So we'll set up a scheduled phone call for 45 minutes to an hour. You tell me what you think you need, and if I can help you, I will tell you what I can do to help you and what it's going to take and what I anticipate the cost would be. And basically, when I come in, I'll spend that amount of time working on what you're talking about, anything that I see that's ancillary to that, that's, you know, obvious. And I give you a report, usually a week to 10 days later, saying, okay, I came out. This is what you said you wanted. These are the 6 things we focused on. Here's 3 other things that I saw that kind of dovetail into it you need to address. And here's the order you want to do it in. So everything is done in the right sequence. So you're not redoing something over again. And part of having that truck organized as I leave is it saves you money. You don't have somebody spending 10 minutes running around in the back of a truck looking for a screwdriver. If it's always in the same place or always in the right toolbox in the same place, it's less trips in and out of the house, and it's less trip, because what are we paying for? In our industry specific, it's labor time. The materials are inexpensive compared to a lot of things. We're not putting in, high-end light fixtures. So, a bag of cement is $10, but if you're billing at $300 an hour for 2 men, which seems to be kind of the average, and somebody wastes 10 minutes in the back of the truck looking for something, well, that's almost $60, $360 an hour, $6 a minute. So every minute, and that's what I break it down to my clients. What's it costing you per minute? So, Chad, thank you for the opportunity. It was really nice getting to talk to you face to face. Hopefully we'll meet face to face soon. I know that you're going to be coming to the CSIA homecoming that we're having the 18th through the 20th in Plainfield, Indianapolis. And that'll be really, really special to have you there. And I can't wait to see you. And if anybody wants to join, you don't have to be CSI certified. You can go to our website, which is csi.org, and it tells you how to register for our homecoming. And there's going to be up to 24 CEUs to get to continue your certification.
Awesome. Well, Chuck, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you.
Bye-bye.